Thank you, Jenny, for the introduction. First of all, I'd like to place on record our thanks to IETA for providing support to new and upcoming agencies such as Climate Connect. Okay. The survey was carried out online, as Jenny said. The entire questionnaire survey which was carried out was anonymous. So the people who responded to it were guaranteed that their individual answers won't be revealed, which was quite important to gauge the actual feeling and the sentiments of the market. The purpose, as Dr. Derwent said, was to find out what are the expectations of the market, of the private sector players in the climate markets and the carbon markets, as to what do they expect from COP17 and what do they think the decision makers over here should do. So we tried to have only 7 key questions. We posed 7 key questions so that it's easy to fill up, it's easy to reply and respond to us. Otherwise, if the survey had been bigger, we know there are many more questions which could have been posed, but it was not possible for us to do all of them, so as to restrict it to a feasible size. There was one question on the Green Climate Fund as to whether the modalities and how the financing will actually take place will be decided at COP17. So that was one question which was interesting. The second question, as Dr. Derwent explained, the results of was pertaining to the large developing economies or the emerging economies. Will they be kept out of the Kyoto Protocol in the second phase of funding? Is that necessary to carry the dialogue forward? There was a third question which was in Africa. It focused on Africa. So the EU ETS has said that it will accept CERs only from the LDC countries. So this question was asking the marketplace whether should all African countries' CERs should be accepted into the ETS following 2012. So that there were some interesting responses on that. Right, and then there was one question on the REDD mechanism for forestry, for example. There are a lot of talks which are going on even in this COP, and there has been progress which has been reported at various quarters. So the MRVs in REDD is thank you. The MRVs in REDD are a particular issue right now. So there was one question on that to try and gauge the market sentiments on REDD mechanism, and people were like. For example, 26% of the respondents were hopeful that there will be a substantial progress on REDD in COP17. And then following this was a question on the NAMAs, the Nationally Appropriate Mitigation Actions, or the programmatic programs which were to be launched in the developing countries, assisted by some of the developed nations. The next question was, like, what would you do if the Durban talks fail? The option being provided for the respondents being like, would you move into the domestic markets of the developing economies if the talks over here fail? And a very large majority of them said yes. Maybe that also reflects on the point that there are very few limited options if these talks fail. And yeah, that also shows the importance which the marketplace attached to these talks. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Dr. Khan, for the informative information provided on the survey questionnaire. And what I believe, or probably on behalf of Climate Connect, what I see is that the renewable energy market on a domestic level are making a comeback. That's what we feel. And there's energy efficiency market as well. To substantiate my point, I'll probably tell that on 8th of November, 2011, Australia passed its clean energy bill. Recently, it's I think a couple of weeks back, we tracked that China is doing a pilot in 7 of its provinces to have a cap and trade scheme. India, as you know, is having its own national action plan for climate change, under which renewable energy instruments are being traded on the power exchanges. It happens once a month, and last night my team sitting in India were tracking it. The sentiments are very positive there. If I can give you a prox figure, then around an instrument or a certificate is around $35. So yeah, that is a positive thrust to renewable energy for sure. And having said that, I mean, moving beyond Asia, US itself are on a statewide level Recently, California announced its own cap and trade or allowances scheme. So all these things, if I may summarize, are actually, I mean, what we see is more of fragmented domestic markets coming up. We are seeing Japan going for bilateral mechanism where funding studies in developing countries and getting into bilateral mechanism. So yeah, I can summarize with the fact that that these mechanisms are getting localized, and there may be certain reasons for that, which again I'm sure that 30 minutes are very less for discussing all that, but there are reasons for that. But I'm sure that whatever happens, it happens for good, and it happens a step forward. And I think, yeah, that's pretty much from my side. We can have more details on our website.
Okay, shall we move over to questions? Sorry, shall we move over to questions? If there are any questions, I don't see a lot of questions out there. What surprised you, Dr. Khan, most about the answers which you saw?
Definitely. The question on what are the expectations on Kyoto Protocol being extended? An astounding 88% said that they believe the Kyoto Protocol would be extended. Now, within this subset, if you look at what were the things, it was just it was a 50-50 division within this 88% on it will be extended unconditionally, and the other 50% saying it will be extended only for 2 to 3 years. Now, within this question or within this answer, there might be something much more interesting. It could be from when on will the next phase of the Kyoto Protocol begin? If there is, for example, a gap of 2 to 3 years between the phase 1 and phase 2, many of the market players whom we have been speaking to individually say that the investors, the private investors, might lose faith in carbon markets or the climate markets, and then when the second phase comes back again, it will be very difficult to re-engage with them. So yeah, that was something interesting.
I think that as I said, we're dealing with a bunch of people who are optimists, but who are also very much aware that they need to keep on producing some sort of economic activity. And what I think is worrying about the markets at the moment is that you are seeing quite a number of people who have been features of the carbon market since the very beginning, turning towards renewable energy and energy efficiency markets for want of something else, which is great from the perspective of those markets, but whether they actually will ever come back to carbon, or whether their bankers have now got into a position where they do not want to hear about carbon anymore because they feel as though they were let down last time, I don't know. It's easy to say, well, too bad for them, but unfortunately, it's not just too bad for them, it's too bad for the development of emissions reductions as a source of value, which is what the architects of the Kyoto Protocol were trying to achieve in the first place. What do you make of the responses on RED? There are many people who think that we made some great progress in RED, but it suddenly seems to have come to a halt. But it looks as though at least some of our respondents were more optimistic than that.
Yeah, more specifically on RED, this entire issue, there was tremendous amount of progress and a lot of support being provided by the developed countries. There are more than 195 projects at various stages, at feasibility stages or preparedness reports being prepared by the various countries, specifically in Southeast Asia, Central Africa, South America. But yeah, the entire issue, what I read of it, is now stuck up in the MRV issue. So and very recently a remote sensing survey was also launched by the FAO. So yeah, the preliminary results were out yesterday. So this shows that the earlier reported rates of deforestation are quite less than they actually are. So these are the kind of issues. What methods to use, for example? Whether is it ground-based methods of surveying, the traditional methods, or should we switch on to remote sensing methodologies, which are obviously time-saving and cost-efficient? So I think those are the key issues where the things are now hanging.
We'll pick up questions, and here's one. Hello. Can you say, for the purpose of those in the room and I suppose those on the record, who you are and where you come from, please?